This is Damien Marie AtHope, and I am an axiological atheist, which can simply be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. Or said another way, I am an axiologist, a value theorist, and I also approach atheism through that type of thinking. And I'm here with a wonderful guest. Could you go ahead and tell us your name and a little bit about you?
Hello, Damien and everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Abhijit Naskar. I'm a neuroscientist, and I mainly write, connect, and various issues of society.
Right on.
But based on...
Go ahead. Based on what?
Yes. And all of that, all the conflict and chaos.
Yeah, so could you tell us...
all the chaos and conflict around.
Can you go ahead and try to tell us a little bit about the books that you have? Because I know you've written a lot of books.
Yes, my first one was, which became a bestseller in a few countries, which is The Art of Neuroscience and Everything. It's a book of neuroscience connecting various and religion. Another one is issues. So in that chapter on relationship, and later on I have books that are concerned with the issues of the society. Some of them are spirituality, religion, discrimination, vicious relationship conflict, and many others.
Very interesting. So, what made you first get into neuroscience, science, or whatever?
I was not into I was field. I only had
Did the
an idea.
Yeah, your connection is kind of breaking up. So could you state that again?
Sure, that is background of computer engineering, and background. So, but my idea of education had a huge conflict with the education that I received. So I quit my university, and various stages of my life led to becoming a monk, then trying to understand my own experience, then into neuroscience.
Okay. So, what was the main thing that made you decide to start writing and after becoming a neuroscientist, or did you start writing or want to write before that?
I'm not certain what exactly made it.
Okay, what I was asking is when you
neuroscience, but
yeah.
See that?
Yeah, I was asking. You're a writer, and I was asking, did you desire to write before becoming a neuroscientist, or did becoming a neuroscientist inspire you to want to write?
Yes. First happens to be a good friend of mine now, and I once watched an episode on National. His work was on the of spirituality, and the Canadian one. He has a lot of works, and that specifically, his work specifically pulled me into neuroscience. Mm-hmm. Later on, then I started studying all about psychology. Then I started to understand the entire domain of the mind, and that led me to the understanding that all the conflicts and everything, that all the barriers and war battles that ever we have is because of our own lack lack of understanding of own. There are a lot of science and the tool of conflict that are already. So I wanted to resolving the conflict. So I wanted to use the neuroscience as a tool to resolve the conflict that already remain.
Yeah, I can definitely see. I think that neuroscientists or neuroscience is definitely giving a lot of scientific credibility in a sense to cognitive science, also to psychology, to give it a lot more standing on instead of.
Yes, the point is that when we talk about science, every single person, every single human being is biased, and no matter how much rid of our own biases, it is impossible, biologically impossible. But we did develop capacity to be aware of those biases, to keep those biases in check, and when we really want. But the point is, just like the religious fundamentalists and there are many scientists responsible for peace and harmony and demolish all the prejudices that we have raised every single positive element in other fields, and only then we can have peace. Otherwise, the peace is just a myth. It doesn't exist.
Well, yeah, if we can't make it so that we feel comfortable in the world, like to me, I think that there's two main features that in general that we need. In other words, we do the most flourishing, the most whether a society or the person or a group or a family, generally when we have the balance kind of two things, comfort and safety. And then those things people always assume as together, they're not. You can have safety, in other words, removal from harm. You're not going to die, but you're not happy. You could be in a box, but be fed, and you're not going to die, but boy, that's not living. And then you can have comfort. In other words, a drug dealer can have comfort. They can buy almost anything they want. But the fact is that drug dealer is constantly worried about being caught, worried about being taken over by other people. There's a constant lack of safety. And comfort can't overturn the lack of safety, nor can safety overturn the lack of comfort. To me, it's when we have both of these, we have what we call well-being. Then when we have well-being, it allows us then to move past that survival mechanism and actually flourish, to me. So, can you give me
the base? Yes, basic of living is, of course, safety and security. And there are two kinds of security. One is physical, the one is psychological security.
Correct.
Physical security, we have food, shelter, clothing, and everything.
Right.
Security. That begins. That's where also it is also the domain where the term
Could you say it again? It's kind of cut out.
Remain. About psychological security, the human brain is going. The physical security, but when we are talking again, battles begin. That's where all the conflicts begin. And also the term comfort remains in that domain of psychological security. We all want psychological security. That's why that's an innate and evolution. And that's why we have developed patterns and orders, a kind of illusion, so that we feel safe. It is an illusory thing.
Oh, I agree.
We do feel safe.
I agree.
Yes.
Well, even like we could be safe in a sense, but we can't be safe from biology in the sense we could have cancer, we could have other types of defects that kick in. I mean, so we could feel that we've now made 100% safety, and guess what? We're still going to die.
Exactly. So it's like the entire human existence, or perhaps the end of all of the species on Earth, it just goes on in a kind of illusion. Humans more than any other, because we have the brain capacity to create more radiant illusion. None of them are bad. Now the point is, when we were on illusion to be authority of the entire, now it is in contrast with another part of the world where they have their own kind of imaginary pattern, imaginary structure, goes on forever. All coming from that sense of psychological security.
Right. Well, and I think then the psychological comfort also, because in a sense, we do a lot of denial and a lot of cognitive dissonance to things we don't like or don't want to understand. And so I think that our mind is hijacking our reason and giving it comfort, regardless. But I think that's also can be good. No one needs to really understand the pain of life at all full effect. It would be psychologically damaging. But I do think that we need to be careful, because we constantly will fall into this pattern of I'm comfortable, thus I deny everything in the world.
Exactly. So that's exactly what goes on. We do the our own, but the point is, again, as you said, that the mind kind of hijacks itself.
Yeah.
So what does hijack exactly? So there is the term that you mentioned, cognitive
dissonance. Yeah.
We are not exactly one person. There are two people. One comes from our ancient past, from our evolutionary days in the wild. Another one is much recent, modern, civilized. That's where all our faculty capacity, conscience, rational thinking, and everything. But the point is, reasoning, rational thinking, these are all capacities may not bring you comfort. You have to take pain in order to understand something. Kind of within us. And so it really depends on the capacity of the person, whether that person logically capable of that truth. I won't, because we can never understand that. But what is really going on? So, in order to go to an amazing assumption, that the common ordinary mind is just not capable. So in that case, the ancient part of the mind hijacks itself and develops all kinds of biases and all kinds of beliefs, whatever is suitable for the daily living, for the daily individual.
Oh, yeah. Well, because we live in the here and now. We can think about the future, we can ruminate on the past, but in a sense, we're always living in the here and now. We're always doing that, but we're always thinking of it not as a here and now, but as a we're going to or we have done. We don't do enough, to me, really analyzing the present.
Yes, correct. As you said, although physically we do and now, in our mind we do not live here and now.
No.
We do not even live. We do not even live as our own self.
Right.
We live as a projection of countless generations of conditioning, of culture, of society.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, I am not me. I'm just a mirror image of the behaviors, of the cognitive capacities of my ancestors. Whatever they put inside my head, whatever my culture put inside my head, and I'm just repeating it like a parrot.
Yeah.
So that's where we are not even individual, because individual means individual who is completely aware of all parts of the world, who is whole. And that really being whole is really holiness. But that holiness has been hijacked by the primitive holiness, which is not holiness at all, because it is not holiness. It is always fighting against each other. And that's where, so we kind of live not as we live as second-hand human beings, second-hand lives. It's not our lives. We don't do anything original. At least most of us, that is.
Yeah, most of us don't. There's definitely some people that are originals. I mean, but I agree. That's definitely the rare thing. Most people feel they're individuals, but they're not. Not totally. I mean, they may live 10% their life as an individual, but everything else is just a copy. I agree.
Yes. Of course, there are rare few people who actually have their original thinking, have their original capacity. Even if you won't have your own original beliefs, in fact, the human brain works on beliefs, or we can call scientifically hypothesis. But the point is, every brain creates its own myth, its own belief, based on the data that it has acquired until that moment. Now, imagine the difference between the amount of data man or woman has acquired at a certain point of time. Compare that to a scientist who has acquired a certain amount of data.
Right.
Of course, a third scientist or a rational thinker who can practice reasoning, he or she would have acquired much more actual amounts of data, facts. And based on a person who has more actual data and information, he or she, the more that person juggles with that data.
Yeah, and I think it's also the using of the data.
Not enough to have facts.
Well, no, I agree.
The mind has truth over the wisdom. Yes, the practical use of the data, that is what we can call.
Right, because there's in other words, you could have even two scientists that both have the data, but why is it that one, in a sense, seems to be able to have it more usable? Is often, I think that it's not just intellect that makes stuff. There's a creativity, and then there's also a desire to find out. Some people truly seek to find out stuff, and other people, it's like they just get a little answer and then they're happy with that. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not happy with the answer. Even my answers, I want to know. I want to know why. I want to know what. I want to know when. I want to know how.
I think that could be really problematic for common people. Although they think, the point is they don't want to know. Most of the human society, they simply want a certain, a kind of confirmation of their own belief that is already out. They're going to gather with that certain belief to strengthen their own tribal group. So again, it creates the kind of tribe.
Yeah.
Entire
Well, I think that tribalism is something that is just like you were saying about primitive human. I think that as that primitive human default, I think that we're hijacked by tribalism all the time. That we seek out tribalism, that we feel comfort and safety in tribalism, whether it's physical or emotional, like you talked about. I think that is a big problem, and I really try to fight that. I'm trying to really produce as much as I can, kind of a non-tribalistic type of atheism in how I'm approaching the atheist movement. I want people to see we are not at battle with people that were believe. Those people to me are victims. Those are people. I don't mean victim as in that the ideas are false. I mean that they were presented false ideas as if they were true, and thus were led to believe them. That is how I see. And I don't just think that that is limited to religion. Politics does this. I mean, there's a lot of things in life that do this. We're told, oh, well, you can't love someone until you love yourself. Like, that's not even true. Love is a behavior, or it is an emotion that we feel, and we can feel that without the behavior. We can behave without the feeling. I mean, it just doesn't make sense when they say that. But everybody assumes that it must be true because, hey, everybody says it.
Yes, that's exactly where social conditioning comes in.
Yeah, social conditioning, definitely.
More people believe in a delusion becomes the truth.
Well, because we want to know things. Because it makes us feel comfort. So I totally get why we would do that. Because like I said, I know that we're seeking safety and comfort. So we want comfort.
It's all parts of seeking. Correct. And like you said, it goes on in all politics. Doesn't think tribalistic. Be safe in that. But the point is, we cannot go ahead and take our entire species ahead unless we break those.
Oh yeah, totally.
Otherwise, we cannot.
Right, and I think that
Yes,
I think since it's hard really to stop others from tribalism, I think then the impetus is on us. I must stop tribalism, not worrying about when someone else.
Because a certain person has a kind of belief, religious, political, doesn't matter. The brain creates a kind of cognitive, so the more you do arguments against it, the brain becomes cognitive, that kind of reasoning. And it would, as a countermeasure, so for those believers, the brain would create the reasoning, rational argument. In that process, the connections get even stronger. So, rational work against what in those beliefs.
Right. So you're saying that, in a sense, I said that the mind hijacks us, and you are talking about doing the opposite. That we are hijacking the mind to operate in ways that is actually not reason in the big sense.
Yeah.
Reason at the moment, I can make a small reasoned argument that's flawed and make it sound really good, but it doesn't mean that it's actually reason.
Correct. In a way, we are to get people out of their cocoons. We are actually shoving them more. So that's the least thing that we should do by going against. So in a way, to take like more of a positive path, and can think of their own positive path instead of fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here fighting. I'm not fighting system by simply age in any kind of conversation, kind of tribal. I'm saying tribalistic. I have to make clear.
Yeah, but you say tribalistic.
You're not leaving. Words can do more harm. In fact, words have done more harm in the world than anything else. So we have to use the words very carefully.
I agree.
And that's exactly where the term also the religion comes in. When I see religion, I see two religions. One could be the real religion, in essence. Another religion is exactly what's running the world, all the organized religion. Mm. So what does religion mean? Religion means something that's us. Now let's look back when we were tribal, literally tribal. And at that time, what did unite us? Our own doctrines, our own beliefs in that specific region. But at that time, we were literally tribal, living in small groups. So our beliefs, our similar imaginations kept us together. And that ensured the survival of that tribe. And that also created war against another tribe. But it ensured the survival of that specific tribe. But that's long gone. Those days are gone. So now is the time that we have to take a step ahead from to make our tribalistic version of religion evolve into a more global version of religion in essence. So what can unify us and unite us today. Not a single religion has their own version of different doctrines. And so believing in doctrines, those doctrines are just going to keep fighting against each other more and more. At the time that we have become a global species, focus should be on essential human faculties, humane faculties even. That is, courage, reasoning, conscience on top of all of that. And these are the things that count as one humanity. So organized religion, if they really want to sustain peace and harmony in the world, have to evolve towards.
Well, yeah, they would have to evolve, but their goal has never been about peace and unity.
Or they're only going to fight.
But to me, religion was never.
Could you repeat that?
I said religion was never projected as a form of peace. In other words, I'm real big in the archaeology of religion. I've been studying it for 10 years about how this happened. Because like I said, I want to know why, when, where, how. So to me, the earliest, in a sense, pre-religion is about 300,000 years ago. And that is basically the Homo erectus were making figurines that were somewhat anthropomorphic or human-like. And also collecting stones that had human faces and somewhat altering them sometimes so that they more projected a human face or some kind of a face. And then by 250, the Neanderthals were already, or I think it's 230, one of those, 250, the Neanderthals started burying their dead. Intentional burial. And then by 100,000, humans, not Neanderthals, were started burying our dead in Israel and then in Africa, South Africa. Then by 70,000 is the first worship of a human worship of a stone snake in South Africa, inside of a cave. So to me, and then by 50,000. We have totemism, and the making of totem figurines that we see today, right? So then at 30,000 is shamanism up in Siberia, and then much later you have at about 12,000, I consider the invention of paganism. But all these ideas, in a sense, are somewhat connected. Whether it's going back to the use of red ochre color as a pigment to put in graves and stuff. The Neanderthals did this, and then humans copied it, or also did the same behavior. But the use of it was pre-Neanderthal even. They were already using it. I think it's Homo erectus was using the pigment red ochre. Red ochre is used in many things, but it's always had, in a sense, a connected symbolic meaning all the way down to today. People still use it today in a symbolic way. So I do agree that we feel like we're separated, and religion is some like little new thing that happened 5,000 years ago. Yeah, no. The cognitive and the development of that has been a long, long time to me. And to me, it's not that ideas are transferred like as full packets like they are now. Like someone could give you a book, the Quran, or give you, the Bhagavad Gita, or give you the Bible. It's not like that back then. Ideas were just transferred with goods, just like the way they would do tool making to me. So I do agree it's a long history, and religion to me has been this add-on to humanity that we've had. Never was supposed to be about well-being for everybody in a sort of humanity, but just mainly, like you said, for the tribe itself. And then other tribes, as they connected, see, well, these people use this, it either is useful to me or not, and then they adapt it. Just like they adapt farming, it spreads out from, basically Turkey and goes out across the world by 9,000 years ago to 7,000 years ago. But once they transferred those ideas of how to make food, they also transferred these ideas of gods and goddesses.
Yes. So now that you mention, now the question is, why? So that's exactly where all the real elements of religion remain. Why religion has been transferred, or spirituality, whatever term, why has it remained so long? It evolved in the mind as a kind of nature's antidepressant. Nature put it in there.
Yeah.
Because as primitive humans, when we were living in the savannah of Africa, and we were pretty much incapable of dealing with our own problems, we were also neurologically incapable of comprehending death.
Right.
So,
I think death is a big deal.
Yes. So what's really happening? Just imagine in a tribe, a person is walking and talking, and suddenly after some time is just gone, and the body is lying there. People around have no idea what goes on. Now the tribal chief comes in and think and contemplate. Now their version of contemplation is far, far inferior to the contemplation that we have today. So at that time, when the mind doesn't have, the mind as in the brain, the brain doesn't have the capacity, the understanding, the comprehension, it doesn't let you know that it doesn't know. It fills in the gap.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Versions, and it creates its own illusions and myths to just keep you comfortable and keep you psychologically secure, not going crazy, because at that time, going crazy means a lot of noise, and a lot of noise means attracting, and it means extinction of that tribe. So it ought to sustain the life itself. So that's where religion or spirituality, from all those older versions, that is animism, totemism, and all of them, were the earlier versions of spirituality. So that's where we were incapable of dealing with our problems. So the brain concocted, using its own creative circuits, concocted its own version that if we somehow put some capacity, project some capacity outside us in an imaginary domain, that may keep us safe. That may give us safety. So when we have problems, we are just to an imaginary projected version of our own selves, and we made those selves superior. That's why all those superhuman capacities and superhuman qualities, because we are not content with our own qualities. We need something more than us. So they were not content with the things that life was giving them. They, of course, questioned that there should be something more we want, of course. So that they put it up there, and now every time they have problems, they go to that state of mind and they pray and they worship, and that's exactly when the mind is programmed in a way that when they worship, though they're worshiping an imaginary projection of their own version, the mind creates a kind of comfort and making them believe that that comfort is coming from that projected version of their self. So that belief and that faith or that spirituality gets even more strength. But that's how we have evolved till now. But here is the problem. We are no longer living in the savannah. We are no longer living in the Africa. Now we do have various brain capacities. We do have the capacity. We are no longer fighting for our survival in the jungle. So now is the time that we have to take action, although it's not going to happen so fast. Never. Because evolution is not about 10 decades or it's about millions of years.
Right.
So for a certain mental capacity to become a kind of major faculty of a species, it would take several million years. So, but for that to really happen, again, for that to happen in a few million years, those few individuals have to take action, not in a kind of anti-manner, but in a kind of self-aware and whole manner. Because every single word, every single action makes a huge impact. And our own bias, for our own biases, we may be thinking that fighting against somebody or those things may bring progress, but we are not even sometimes maybe aware that that would just make them more deluded and create even more wars. So it is also necessary to be aware of our own biases, because it is impossible to get rid of our biases.
Well, that's why I try to tell people that when you debate people in atheists, when they're debating, say, theists, we need to present the truth as a gift, not as we're punching them in the face with the truth and then expect them to listen. Because just think for ourselves too, even if we're told something, how do we want it presented to us? I want to try to present ideas as a friend. And I also don't expect people to have to believe. I simply present information, and then I am, in this sense, appealing to their reason, not to themselves.
Yes, because in the way, the path or the manner that we use to present those ideas will determine the fate of a civilization, the fate of a species. Because when we use the term fundamentalist, sometimes the term fundamentalist, although it comes from the Christian history, religious fundamentalist, but now it can be used for any kind of fundamentalism, even atheistic fundamentalism or scientific fundamentalism.
Yeah.
When we are so much into our own ideas that we are not open. But that is the point, that we have to be, we have to use those reasoning. But again, if we really want the species to go ahead, there should be a healthy balance between acceptance, that is compassion, and reasoning. So, we will go against all of the religious fundamentalists, religious extremists. There should not, even the hate or those terms even are too little for those people who are really believing themselves to be extremists or fundamentalists, because they are already turned off. No matter what we say, doesn't matter. But when we are talking about an everyday human being who is just content or happy with their own beliefs and is not creating a wall of differentiation from people from other beliefs, then I don't see any problem that could be coming from those people, because these are just ordinary people. So people with great knowledge, with great wisdom comes great responsibility. We also have to accept people's shortcomings. And that's where we have to be aware when we are presenting our own ideas. Let's not say our own ideas. We are presenting the most rational, the most progressive truth. Because in every century, in every era, they have their own truth. There is a Christian truth. You are a born-again Christian. And whether you are a Hindu, there is a Hindu supreme truth of that and Kundalini and all those nonsense. These are all ideas passed on centuries as truths. So be careful that we are not stepping into the same kind of loophole. Because they thought that their version of the truth is the exact truth. But here is the point. The brain is incapable of comprehending the real truth. What we can have is more accurate version of the truth than another person who has lack of access to real information, real factual data. So that's where the point is, that truth is irrelevant to the human mind. The mind creates its own reality. So everything that the human species has achieved, it has nothing to do with truth. It has to do with the reality that we have achieved. If in a nation, they truly believe that that women are inferior to men, and they are made from the ribs of the supreme entity named God, and these doctrines go on forever in that nation, then in that nation the truth would be exactly that. So we cannot change that. That's why.
Well, let me say it a little different. Let me state a little different though. So to me, in general, the word truth, okay, is a judgment. In other words, it's a label that we've added on to something. So that doesn't mean that I agree that what we've added it to is actually true. So the statement of a thing being true to me is zero. It means nothing. I want to hear, why is it justified? Why is it warranted? Why is it valid? Why is it reliable? Why is it quality? What you're offering. So whenever someone says any kind of thing as true, even whether I say it out loud or not, I'm thinking all that stuff. Is what I'm being presented an actual truth? How quality of truth is it? Because you could have a truth that isn't useful. You could say that a dog goes to the bathroom on the grass. It's not useful. I now have to pick it up. It's a mess. It's bad to look at. But if we grind that up and we put it all over the lawn, it now becomes, in a sense, fertilizer, and it almost is useful. So the same truth of the thing, depending on how it's applied. Now, if you just took it straight from the grass and put it in your food, it's not good. But so it's the same thing, but it can be used to produce food. So it's the understanding of the quality of the evidence, how to use the evidence that makes it, in a sense, have a value to me. So it's not just always the thing itself. Some things have value unto themselves. Some things have value in use. And then some things it's only positional. It's only good in a sense in a certain area, but in a sense it has no innate good in itself. So to me, it's very important, because to me, when things are true, then I need to be careful that I'm seeing all of the things. In other words, truth is not like a plastic, just flat thing. It's like a ball. It's got all kinds of things that can be attached to it. Or like a web. The idea is in the middle, like the spider, and then all the things that come out from the spider. So I try to look at that, because that helps me know. Because if someone tries to present a spider just floating out in the air with no web, I already don't believe it.
Yes. That makes me think. You said that you're thinking, although looking at certain phenomena, the why behind it, and that's a rare thing. That makes me think whether human progress is dependent on only the actions of the rational thinkers, and I don't think so. That dependent only on the yes.
It should be.
Yes.
Or it should be certainly more integrated with rational thinkers. But I do agree. No, most people are emotional thinkers. In fact, I don't even think that most people in general do a lot of thinking. I used to be this way too, where you just, in a sense, live in your eyes. What you see and you react to, and you don't think. I mean, but I think it goes back to evolutionary art, kind of like the fight or flight. We just operate on this: is it good, is it bad? That's it. Black and white. Is it good, is it bad? I mean, but the world is not that black and white.
Yes, we run on a kind of pre-programmed manner. That's where the question right now is: there are many people. So let's just look at two people. A bunch of rational thinkers, and then comes a bunch of, how to put it, because the terms are all nonsense. A bunch of real religious people. Real religious, not organized religious. By real religious, I mean, you could see yourself as a Christian, yet you don't see Christ as the only prophet or the only Messiah and all that. So there is really, we have to...
I have a question though. Can you explain why you would call that real religion? I mean, to me, real religion, I wouldn't totally understand that term, other than, to me, real religion is that you're posting beliefs about the world that are supernatural. To me, someone who... Yes, that's really where all the trouble begins, because the words are all wrong. We have our own understanding of words. That's
when we think of religion, we think of supernatural stuff. But I don't think that, as I explained, that religion is not about supernatural stuff. Religion is about unifying people. Religion has to have reasoning. Religion has to have rational thinking. Now, you have to go deeper into that because you cannot see that with the version of organized religion. I'm not talking about organized religion. Organized religion is all nonsense. But religion, real religion, which is where there is compassion, where there is reasoning, and that is the religion of civilized humanity, not tribal humanity. Because we made religion a kind of, nature created it as a kind of antidepressant sentiment. Now, we created various walls from that sentiment out of our own urge for psychological security. Now and many prophets and those people see them as prophets. Someone as compassionate, as conscientious as Christ would never have said that I am God or whatever. People around him, it is the urge of the human mind, the disciple, to protect the figure. Jesus could have been real. I don't know, possibly. Christ was created by the followers. Christ as an image, as a personal God, creating. Then the minds of the disciples created all those doctrines. Even the stories turning water into wine, because every personal God needs some kind of magic. The whole world is filled with, these are called hagiographical literature. All over the world, every single personal God has their own version of hagiographical literature, which means various literature that has magical elements. Mm-hmm. Because a God without magic is no God at all. So the disciples...
Well, and I would say, and I personally would say, in a religion that doesn't have any magical claims is a philosophy, not a religion.
Exactly that's where, in that way, Buddhism has no God. So that's
some versions of Buddhism don't have a God, because there's many versions that have gods and goddesses, and there's even ones that believe
Actually, in those versions of Buddhism, because what happened is Buddha, that is, Christ was a Jew. Then his followers created a religion out of that figure.
Correct.
Siddhartha, that's the name. He was a Hindu. Now, he learned to use his own rational thinking. No matter how thorough he wanted to use his own rational thinking.
Right.
And he attained that state of transcendence. And from his own mind, came knowledge and wisdom, various philosophical... There is a difference between philosophical teachings and religious doctrines. Now, Buddhism has various philosophical teachings that Buddha imparted onto his disciples. Now, here is the problem. Big religion, and the oldest religion, which is called Sanatana Dharma, commonly known as Hinduism. So, Hinduism, the oldest religion,
Hindu starts in the Vedas, but the Vedas probably came from a mixture, to me, of the people coming from the north, from like Iran, or from Siberia, which I think they came from Siberia, went to Iran, then from there down into and then the Harpin culture, right, was there pre-existing of that stuff. So I think it's the mixing that then becomes the Vedas.
Yes, that's where the Vedas, that is, they were written by the people coming from especially various European regions. And they came to India, and they had that's why we have the Hindus, they have so much similarities in their stories with the Greek versions, even Egyptian versions, because they're all people coming from those regions. So those are all similar. Now, at that time, it's not really about religion here. Here the point is having control. At that time, Hinduism was the major figure, controlling authority. When religion and politics comes together, that's the most dangerous combination that there could ever be. And that's how it works.
Well, because then religion gets a military. See, without political power, religion doesn't have a military. Until it has a military, it can't force itself or subjugate people with that type of force. And so, yes, when religion gets politics, it gets a military.
That's where the connection between Hinduism and Buddhism, Siddhartha saw all the oppression of the Hindus. That is, within the Hindus, there were different classes. The priests, then there were warriors, the businessmen people, and below them were the people who were just janitors and all those. And those divisions were radiant, and they were seen, and the people at the lowest were seen as kind of not even human.
Right,
now, Siddhartha,
but isn't
in
that
every age?
But isn't that in the Vedas, and isn't even that somewhat highlighted a little bit in the Bhagavad Gita as well?
It comes from the Vedas.
Yeah.
There is a stanza in the Vedas that says when a human is offered to the god, the head is considered as the Brahman. Here, the Brahmins, which is the priest. The Brahmin means the priest. When we are talking about Brahman, that means they're referring to a kind of energy which can be represented as God or whatever. So that's why I'm mentioning the Brahman. But when they're offering a human being to the god, the head represents the Brahman, the hands represent the warriors, and all the way to the ground, the legs represent the lowest caste, the people. There's the common people. So that's where the stanza says. Now look at the people. It doesn't matter what's written. It all depends on the people, their own urge for authority. When it is written that the head, which is the controlling authority, and it is given and represented as the Brahmin, of course the Brahmins, the priest, the Hindu priest is going to have the control over the society. And that's what they have. And in the name of that control over the society, they did terrible deeds, like they did in the Christians, like they did in the Jewish. So terror and horror, it doesn't know what religion it comes from. It comes from the mind. There's good and bad. It's only the content that changes. And now at that time, the Hindus, especially the priests, the problem that, there is a new prophet, there is a new Messiah, there is a new figure, Buddha, he's taking control. We have to do something about it.
Right.
We have to bring him to fight him, but they saw that he's not going anywhere. Either we have to camp in some manner, or we'll lose all the control. So what they put in new into the Vedas, mentioning Buddha as the ninth avatar, reincarnation of Lord Vishnu. So they have 10 incarnations.
I didn't know that
they
they had said
the
that.
9 incarnations. Yes. Lord Vishnu, there were the Hindu Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva the destroyer.
Speaking of the number 3 being
Lord Vishnu has
I was going to say, speaking of the Trinity, people always think of a Trinity as only a Christian idea. I agree it's in Hinduism. Yep. It also is, I know for sure, in Babylonian mythology, but it's even higher than that, because 9,000 years ago, there's aurochs heads, 3 of them in a row, under a goddess bear figure in cattle hawk. So in other words, the goddess and the 3 bulls. The 3 males, in a sense. So it's so that concept is very old, of somehow being 3 things being.
It all comes from.
Could you say it again? I couldn't hear you. You kind of cut out. Could you say it again?
Yes. So
Yeah, I'm still not hearing you. Try say it again, please.
If we go back long enough, we will all the time. Yes. we go back, look at them coming up, could you hear me now?
Yeah, well, you're it's like in and out a little bit, but go ahead. Oh, no, lost connection. Oh, well, I guess we'll have to end it there. All right.